Is the world blowing past its carbon budget? It certainly seems so. Professor Rob Jackson is on the line with us. He's the chair of the Global Carbon Project and a professor at Stanford University's School of Earth, Energy, and Environmental Sciences, professor with the Earth Systems Science at Stanford. Globalcarbonproject.org is the website. And the Twitter handle is Stanford Earth, at Stanford Earth. Professor Jackson, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Thank you for joining us. So I understand that we kind of flattened out for a few years the planet-wide use of carbon, but over the last few years, we've gone back to increasing the amount of carbon we're burning every year, when in fact in not just the Paris Accord, but going back a number of years, the scientists in the world have been saying, no, you can't continue to grow carbon use or emissions, and you can't even plateau it. You've got to actually reduce it. Do I have that right? And what are the numbers like? Where are we at?
Well, that is right, Tom. We had a period from 2014 to 2016 or so where global emissions were almost flat at the same time that the world's economies grew. And that was the first time really that had happened. But starting 2017, 18, and now 19, emissions are back up. And this year they're being driven primarily by an increase in natural gas use globally. Natural gas use is surging. Oil use continues to climb steadily. And the only fossil fuel showing a hint of a decline is coal. And you see that particularly in the United States and Europe, where we're replacing coal capacity with gas, renewables, and energy efficiency. So that's a good news part of the story.
I saw an article over in Common Dreams this morning saying that over the last 3 years, U.S. financial institutions have underwritten, as I recall, I don't have it in front of me, $700 million worth of new coal-fired power plants around the world. Are we going in the wrong direction? Are there serious efforts to take us in the right direction? And does this to what extent does this have to do with political consensus, political actions in the United States or around the world, or technology?
Well, that's about 4 questions.
Yeah.
So yes and yes. We are going in the wrong direction in terms of total emissions. I think it's more complicated, though. I mean, you can look at a country like India that's building both coal and renewables very rapidly. You have 300 million people there who lack access to reliable electricity. I mean, those folks need power, and they need it soon. So it's hard to fault a country like India, where a person uses 1/5 to 1/6 what you or I use on average, and a lot less than someone in Europe or China. At the same time, China's emissions are going back up strongly this year, driven by oil and natural gas use in particular. And here in the U.S., I mean, coal is down 10% this year. That's remarkable. But natural gas use is growing, oil use is growing. So while we're down a little bit over the last couple of years, we're almost even. So there are good things happening here. They just aren't happening fast enough, really, to do what we need, and especially so around the world.
So what do we need to do? What would you suggest if you were king of the world?
Yes, everyone would do something different. I'll give you a few of my priorities. I mean, first of all, we need to close the deal on the electricity sector. We need to decarbonize electricity. Wind and solar are now fuels of choice because of low price. If we build more natural gas, let's combine it with carbon capture and storage to keep those emissions from heading into our air. And even nuclear is being built around the world as a carbon-free fuel. So I think we need every arrow in our quiver. The tough sector is transportation. Air traffic's going up 5% a year. There are more cars being put on the road. There are 1/40th, the number of cars per person in India is in the U.S., 1/5 in China. So as those countries' middle classes grow, they're buying more vehicles. Those vehicles need to be electric. They need to be coupled to carbon-free electricity. And then we need to do some things less. We need, to walk and bike more, consume less energy in some cases, take public transport, even change diets. Everybody can do maybe a little bit of a different set of things, but ultimately we need them all, and we need them fast.
Yeah, I saw a documentary over on Netflix that Arnold Schwarzenegger produced. It's called Game Changers, and it's about a vegan diet. And they make a point toward the end of it that as I recall, almost a quarter or maybe a fifth of worldwide global carbon emissions tie right back into animal agriculture. Is that what you were talking about when you said change diets?
Yeah, two things really about a beef-based diet. And it doesn't have to be going vegan. It just means eating less meat protein. But the cattle industry in this country is using rangeland for the most part. It's already grassland. But in Brazil, it's swapping forest land for grassland to raise cattle on. And those cattle are one of the biggest sources of methane emissions around the world. So about a fifth of global methane emissions come from ag and cows in particular. So it really does make a difference. Not everybody has to become a vegan, but what we do, the choices we make individually, really do matter.
Professor Jackson, where are the real pressure points technologically that you see emerging? I mean, or are there any technologies that are like just on the verge that you're very hopeful about that could move us forward?
Well, I'm hopeful about a number of things. First of all, pricing of renewable solar in particular. I mean, people are choosing and companies are choosing solar based on price now, not based on climate concerns. We have opportunities down the road, not immediately, but to couple excess solar capacity, even to produce natural gas or hydrogen. We need to do a lot more on carbon capture and storage. We're building natural gas plants here and elsewhere around the world. Those plants will be churning out pollution in 40 years, so we need to couple those with carbon capture and storage. I'm super excited about the electric car growth, but let's be honest. I mean, a lot of the people in the world won't be able to afford electric cars for a while. So I guess if I could have people see one thing, it would be the benefits of green energy. They go far beyond climate. The two biggest sources of mortality, of deaths from air pollution in this country are coal and cars. Those are tens of thousands of people every year, millions of people around the world. So when we swap to green energy, we save lives from air pollution. When we don't burn oil and import oil from OPEC, we make our country stronger, more nationally secure. We improve our balance of trade. There are so many benefits to green energy that go far beyond climate. I think those benefits should resonate with Republicans and Democrats.
We're talking with Professor Rob Jackson, the chair of the Global Carbon Project, globalcarbonproject.org, also a professor at Stanford University. Last question. What if we don't do anything? Global emissions are increasing at over 1%, I believe, right now. I think 1.7% is the number sticks in my head. Correct me if I'm wrong, last year. If we continue on the path that we appear to be on right now, where will we end up and within what time frame?
Well, the honest answer is we aren't sure. I mean, emissions globally were up about 2% last year, another half to 0.6% this year. I mean, we do know that this isn't about our grandchildren. And look at what's happening to the Earth now. We are in the process of melting the North Pole in summer, have it be ice-free, possibly even in our lifetimes, and certainly our children's lifetimes. We're killing the Great Barrier Reef. Right here in the United States, we are seeing amazing changes in our weather. Storms are getting stronger. Our droughts are getting stronger. The western U.S. is seeing just an amazing increase in the number of fires. We're paying for this right now. 2017 we paid $300 billion for natural disasters in this country. That was $100 billion more than we had ever paid before. This is right now. This isn't some nebulous time in the future.